Hi guys, it's Catherine, and today I'm going to be doing my favorite books of 2016. What a year it's been. So, my reading goal was not achieved, no big deal. It was 20 books. I've never read more than 20 books a year in my life so far, but definitely next year I will. I only read 16 books, which is a good amount for me. Like, I'm proud of it. Like, I'm not, like you might be like, oh my god, I read 16 books this whole year. I read like 103. I'm a very slow reader. I'm a different type of reader, okay? But anyways, also I had a huge book slump during like the beginning of the year. I also found BookTube like during July-ish, and before that I didn't really have a TBR and like books that I wanted to read, so like I wasn't always like, okay, let's get to the next book. But now, that's my life. Let us start with all the books that I loved this year. I think it's like 7 books that I have to talk about, and they're all in order of like when I read them through the year. So let's get started. So the first book that I read this year and that I absolutely loved was Pride and Prejudice. I was obsessed with it. I still am obsessed, but I was obsessed with the movie and I watched it so many times, and I was like, you know what, let's just read it. So I don't know how I started reading it, but I could not like read it with my eyes, like physically. I got this after I finished reading it because it took forever to get here. But anyways, this edition is so beautiful. It is gorgeous. Like, look at that. But anyways, I read it listening to the audiobook because the English in it is just like I'm not used to, and I'm a slow reader, so I was like, this one's not gonna work. Let's just listen to it. I listened to it on Audible, got my one free book. Okay, no, Audible, no, just no, Audible, no, that's a lot of money. Anyway, so I got my free book, and that was Pride and Prejudice, and it was, what's it called? Read by Rosamund Pike, who plays the sister of the main girl. Why can't I remember it? Yeah, in the movie with Keira Knightley. So that's exciting, but I absolutely enjoyed it and I loved it so much, and I love the movie and I love the book and it's so good, and my life. I always used to hear about like Jane Austen and their like romance novels and like for girls to read, and I was like, oh, I'll never read those, that sounds lame. And I read it and it's so good, but like people have such a stigma around it, like, oh, it's for girls or something like that, and that's how I saw it. And then I read it and I was like, oh, this is so good. Like, people are so stupid. Don't let people influence you. So yeah, this was my first favorite book of the year in this beautiful edition. So the next book that I just thought I'd throw in here because it's the only contemporary that I read this year. Is it? I think so, but it's the only contemporary that I read, I guess, and I liked it enough to mention it in this video, and it is Me, an Earl, and Dying Girl. And I loved this movie. Again, this was another like case of I watched the movie like a gazillion times before and then I picked up the book. And the book was equally as good as the movie. They were just kind of like separate. Like separate in the respect that they were like both good in their own medias, But anyways, I love this book so much. I can't really remember much about it, but I know that I loved it. So yeah, if you don't know what this is about, basically about me, the guy, Greg, who has to befriend this girl who's dying and has cancer. It's not one of those like, oh, sappy love stories. There's like no love story in this, and that's what I love so much about it. And it was a hilarious book as much as I can remember, but yeah. So this was a really good book, and I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. All of these books have 5 out of 5 stars. That's why they're in this video. The next book, and if you've been around since the beginning of my BookTube channel, I think I loved it so much because I had just started BookTube and I read it, and then like, you just think about all the things that you look for in a good book, and you're like, wow, like this was such a good book. Did that make sense? Probably not. But I love this book so much, and if you've been around for a while, you would know I've talked about it before, and it is Sword and Verse by Kathy Macmillan. I have said that this is not everybody's cup of tea. I loved it so much though. It's kind of like a romance story, but it just takes you on an unexpected journey throughout the whole thing, It's just really good. I really enjoyed it. I read this in 2 days, but I'm gonna try to give a synopsis of this because I feel like I'm so invested in the book that like I know too much, and like So we follow this slave girl named this girl. Anyway, so in this world, there is like no writing or reading. Like only the nobles can read and write, and like some merchant, kind of like higher up merchant people, so that they can do like the taxi kind of stuff, So there are also tutors who are taught the language so that they can teach to the future nobles. The tutor at the beginning of the novel shared writing and reading, and so she was executed for that. So our main girl is chosen, and so now she has to become a tutor, and she learns alongside the current prince, who's like her age but a little older. It starts out where they're like, I think 11 or younger, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to read a story about 11-year-olds right now. Like, I'm not in the mood for that. But the beginning, it kind of just like progresses over a couple of years, and it might seem like an insta-love, but it's not, because it happens over a couple of years, and even though we're not there for like them getting to know each other, they do, and so it's not an insta-love, and that's what makes it great. So the main character goes through a lot of like turbulent romantic kind of times, but it doesn't seem idiotic because like she's a slave and that's all she's got, and it means a lot to her. You can tell that he feels the same way about her, which just doesn't make it seem unreasonable and like, oh my god, get over yourself. She's not one of those like characters that are like, wow, I want to kill you, why are you, just get over it, you know? She's not one of those characters, and I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. Throughout this book, it's such a big adventure, and that's what I loved so much. It like starts in one place, you know, and like, oh my god, you don't even know that it's gonna end this way, and I loved it so much for that. And I don't really want to spoil anything because I could do that really easily, but at the top of the chapters, you should definitely read them. Don't go ahead throughout all the chapters and read them all at once, because the top of the chapters, they're like these like this like creation story of the world that they live in. Don't go through and read them all at once because they tie into the story, and it's super cool, and I did not see that coming. I was kind of like, what is this doing here? Like, I just want to read the story, but it's so beautiful and I loved it so much. So yeah, this book was also really fast-paced. Like I said before, it happens over a bunch of time, so you're not always present for like the boring stuff, so it's really just keeps moving. You just want to keep reading it. This book could totally have been like prolonged into a series, but I love standalones because they don't linger on like unimportant details. But anyways, if I talk anymore, I will probably give away some spoilers about this, but I love this book so much, and it's probably my favorite book probably of this year. The next book that I read, and I love this author's work so much, so I was like, I have to pick up this next book, and it was The Glittering Court by Richelle Mead. It came out this year, I believe, right? I don't know, I think it did, but the next book comes out in May, I swear, or March. I swear they keep knocking it back, and I'm like, no, please, I just want it now. But anyways, let me try to give a synopsis of this book, which should be terrible. So we follow this like society girl in this like, it's kind of like England circa Victorian age, I'm gonna say, but you know, of course, this is a fantasy world. So we follow this society girl who is like on the verge of like bankruptcy. She's like, she didn't have any money, so she needs to get married, and so she's like kind of like betrothed to this like, I think it's her cousin, I don't think it is, I don't remember, but he's insignificant, okay? So she's to marry him, and so she's like selling all of her stuff and getting ready to move to the countryside with him because she lives like in the city, like London, but it's not London. And so she has this chance to go to this place called the Glittering Court, where under disguise she has a chance. And the Glittering Court is where they take impoverished girls and like fix them up and teach them manners and stuff so that they can go to the new world. It's like, you know, the time of exploration and like settling in a new world. So yeah, so that they can send them there to marry the like wealthy men that are currently residing in the new world, so they can build up society there as well. So our main character Adelaide disguises herself as her maid who's supposed to go to the Glittering Court so that she can just escape her life that's just kind of like pointless at this point, so that she can go explore the new world. It's just exciting, and I loved it so much. I thought the whole thing would take place like at the Glittering Court, but no. It takes you to after they finish it and they go to the new world, and it's just a great adventure. This just goes through so much in the one book that I'm like, wow, what even happened? So yeah, we follow the one girl Adelaide and her, you know, her adventure through this one book. And the next book after this, which is called Midnight Jewel, I believe, so we follow one of Adelaide's friends named Mira. And in the third book, we're gonna follow Tamsin, and I'm so excited for the third book. It's basically the same story but from somebody else's point of view, because there are like periods of time where they're not together, like all three of them. So that should be pretty exciting, and I think the third girl is gonna have the most interesting story besides this one, because this one I have read so far. I'm waiting to see, and I'm waiting for so long, and I just want the book now. So I absolutely love this book. It was really good romance, good adventure. It was a great time. So the next book that I thought I would show you, because it was just a really enjoyable adventure that I read or listened to twice. What? I know. But can I call it one of my favorite books of the year? I don't know. I just really enjoyed it, and it just gives great vibes, and I think it was so different from the rest of the... Let me just tell you what it is. Breaking Dawn by Stephenie Meyer. Fourth book in the Twilight saga. I just think it was so different from the other books that it just kind of like struck me, and I was like, wow, I enjoyed this. What the heck? So it was like one of my favorite books this year. It hurts me to say that because I went through this phase where I hated Twilight so much. I thought it was ridiculous, and then I just kind of was like, why not read, like why not see what it's about? And like after I read it, I just kind of like forgot about it, and I watched the movies because those vibes in those movies are so good, and I wish I lived there because fall and rain, oh my gosh. Anyways, let's talk about the book. But yeah, I just thought this last book was so good. It was like full of adventure. It's so unlike the rest of the books, and she's finally a vampire. She's not like afraid of like saying the wrong thing or being independent without Edward. I mean, I don't know, you know? It's just so different from the rest of the book that I enjoyed it a lot, and I thought I would mention it in this video. So these last 2 books were the last 2 books that I read this year, and I really enjoyed them. So the first one was The Glass Arrow by Kristen Simmons. I really enjoyed this book. I forgot. It basically follows our main character. Wow, I can't remember her name. I'm really bad at this. Aya. I feel like I'm saying Aria, but like with a British accent, you know? Follow the main character, Aya, who lives in this world where women aren't valued, where they're just like there to make babies, and men have like a superiority, and the world that they live in is like, it doesn't feel dystopian, it just feels like a whole separate world, and I didn't know that when I went into this, but it's like machinery and electronics, and I thought that was a really cool element to this. There's no magic in this, which, you know, whatever, it was really good anyways. So in this world we mostly see the city where everyone lives, and the main character doesn't live in this city. She lives in the mountains, like ways away from the city, but you know, they always need more women to like make babies, boy babies, and so she's captured and taken away from her family to the city where she's to be like prepped to be sold off to men. And this adventure was great. I loved it a lot. This is a standalone book, so everything wraps up in this, and there's no like dawdling, but I really enjoyed this book, and I don't really know what to say about it. Really, it was just an unexpected find of love in this I just really loved it, and I didn't expect to, because I didn't know anything about it. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Love this book, read it, 5 stars, always. So the last book I have a review up for, which I will have linked somewhere here, I don't know, it'll pop up, you'll see it. But yeah, I have a review for it. If you want to go watch it, go ahead. So I won't talk too much about it in this video. I loved so much was Storm Siren by Mary Weber. I loved it so much. It was really good story, delicious. Let me try to give a really quick synopsis. Basically, we follow this girl who has an elemental power, and she shouldn't, because women don't have this power, and anyone who has power, the boys, are executed when they're born, because everyone that has an elemental power has white hair and blue eyes, and yeah. So she's a slave, and somehow she's kept alive all these years with this elemental power, but you know, she's been passed around so much because once this like thing flares up, they don't want her anymore, and when she's being sold off again, it happens, like her elemental powers flare up, and somebody of importance sees this, and so she takes her and trains her so that she can contribute to the war that's going on in this world. And I loved it so much. There's a good romance in here. It was really, really nice. Good plot twist, but even though I like foresaw it, which I was really proud of myself for. And this is a trilogy, and I have the next book, but I'm like so hesitant to pick it up because I'm like, I just want to know what happens. And I hate second books in trilogies because they usually take place in a different place from the first book, and that happens in this book, and I just don't really want to read it. So yeah, and I have terrible anxiety when I try to start reading it because I'm like, no, my heart hurts so much. But anyways, yeah, so I love the first book so much, and it could totally have been a standalone, which I wish it was, but there's a plot twist at the last page, so watch out if you're gonna read this. Check out my review. I liked this book a lot. 5 stars, as always. Oh my gosh, we're done. This is itchy and I'm hot, oh my god. But anyways, I hope I remembered to include all the books that I loved this year so far. The year's over. I've had so much trouble filming this video. I literally cannot speak. Sorry for all the cuts in this video. I'm really sorry. Definitely check out my Goodreads. I know I didn't complete my goal, but whatever. Next year, okay? But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Remember to give it a thumbs up and comment down below what your favorite book that you read this year was, because I would love to know so that I can read it next year. And remember to check out my Instagram, because Bookstagram. Anyways, yeah. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next year. Crazy. Bye!
Deck the halls with boughs of holly. 'Tis the season to be jolly.